The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah!
Go Cowboys!
Let's go, baby!
Are you ready for a break?
Yes.
Are you ready for a break?
Absolutely.
Ready for a break?
Yeah, and so much for that.
It's time for The Break on DallasCowboys.com.
We were on the break!
With Nick Eatman, David Hellman, Ambar Garcia, and Derek Eagleton.
It is Wednesday, June 1st, 2022, Season 18, Episode number 11. Welcome to the latest edition of The Break. We are live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star, and we've got an hour of Cowboys talk with you guys today. Today we're going to actually zero in on three guys. I would say, I guess we probably would all agree, they're probably the three most high-profile players, definitely on the offense, maybe on the whole team. We're going to talk about Dak, we're going to talk about Zeke, and we're going to talk about CeeDee Lamb and kind of dive in a little bit on those three players and where they were last year going into this year and what the expectation should be for them this year. Right now the Cowboys are in their second week of OTAs. They have another week next week, and then they'll have their mini camp before they send everybody away for a little bit of break and relaxation before training camp.
That sounds good, but, I mean, training camp is now next month.
I know. It's coming. It's coming. I just submitted our list the other day. You all are on it.
Did we get rejected?
Well, no, not yet.
No one else?
Not yet, but we'll see if anybody comes back and says anything about it. But you're all on the list, so get ready. Start packing, Amber. You're heading to training camp.
I'm packing for 2 or 3 vacations before that.
Are you?
Yes.
You want to say where you're going?
Really?
No. You don't want to tell people out there. You're not going to tell us either. Like
Nope.
Nobody's going to know.
I'm just going to hang like a gone fishing sign at my cube starting on June 17th.
We're vacationing the same time. That's when I'm
Awesome.
taking my vacation.
Love it.
I always like
Love
it
it.
when I take vacation. Other people are out too.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about it. I didn't know there was 3 or 4 vacations.
Mm-hmm.
I got 2. So you might want to plan a few, Nick.
Yeah, right. Can.
You got it right?
Can if Dave's taking 3.
Some of them are weekends, whatever.
Yeah.
It works. All right, let's jump in. I want to start this conversation first with Dak. Last week, he met with the media for a little bit of time, and one of the things that jumped out to me, he was talking about being focused on his footwork and consistency. He said he's fully healthy, as it was not the case last year. And I want to start the conversation there, just in a general sense. If you look at how Dak performed last season, what do you think is the area where you most want to see him improve going into 2022?
Maybe start off better. I mean, we had too many slow starts.
In games.
Got it. Sometimes they were able to come back from that and rally and take care of business. Sometimes they weren't, and they find themselves digging a hole there. I mean, I think that whether that's Kellen Moore and him, whatever that is, but I think that he needs to figure out ways to kind of come out hot, be better early, and that would help Zeke be better. And then that'll help the running game and all that if you can kind of establish that. But that would be one area. That may not be as specific, but I just think starting off early on games is something they can improve on.
I laughed because, I don't have a great answer for that. In a vacuum, I don't think Dak Prescott needs to improve very much. He was in the short list of MVP consideration. I say this all, I feel like a crazy person the way that that has just been swept to the side. And I get it. He fell off. The whole team fell off. And that's why it's a hard thing to answer, because I'm like, well, I want the offensive line and the running game to produce better, and that'll probably make Dak's life a whole lot easier. I've seen the peak of the way Dak Prescott can play, and I think you're nitpicking if you're sitting there saying that there's just a ton of improvement he can do. I mean, sure, his deep ball accuracy could be a little bit better, I suppose. His anticipation could be better. That's true for probably every quarterback in the world except maybe Patrick Mahomes. That's what makes last season so mystifying is they had it and they lost it, and I don't think there's a tidy answer to that, and it's certainly not all on Dak.
So I'll challenge you a little bit farther there. You said you thought the whole team fell off. You said he fell off a little bit in the second half. that being said, what were those areas where you felt like he fell off? Like, where did you think, or was it just a situation where you think the team fell off that wasn't necessarily about Dak?
Well, for starters, I mean, for starters, yeah, like, was he completely healthy? He says he was. I don't know if I buy that. And that's just, that's his thing. Like, I can't sit here and speculate based on how his calf and his shoulder felt if he says he was healthy. And he was very adamant throughout the second half of the season that he was. So that's how I'm going to choose to judge him. But I think that was part of it. The other thing, too, again, like, it sounds like a bad thing to say, like, oh, you need a good running game to be good. Like, no, that's just football, really. And I think they lost the ability to impose their will in the run game. And I think defenses played them in such a manner where they knew they didn't need to fear that, and they challenged Dak. I think a big way Dak Prescott could probably improve his game is learning to be a little bit more patient. He struggled with that at times. He's like, screw this. Like, how much longer am I going to have to take the check down? I want to go for the gusto. And it bit him a lot last year. So yeah, that's something he could probably stand to work on.
Amber?
Well, the one thing that I can think of is just like his whole game, basically. His whole game, because I think that he's going to be asked to do so much more this year. I don't think that the offense is better than what they were last year, talent-wise, on the field. There's a lot of question marks, a lot of doubts. There's a lot of things that we need to wait and see how it actually looks, rather than me expect how it's going to look right now. Right now, I feel that, whether that's tight end, wide receiver, the running game, the O-line specifically, there's a lot of work and improvement that needs to be overall. And I think that based on what I've seen from Dak in his whole career, he's the type of player, and you always say this, Dave, like, well, that's every quarterback, basically, that they do need help around them. And that is true. But at the same time, Dak, I don't know, I think he needs a little more help than normal, than average. Just, he needs a lot of components to be working the right way for him to succeed or be the most successful he can be in the game. And although he's improved in the passing game, some of those deep throws, he's going to have to put it all together. The accuracy, thinking quickly on his feet. I would like to see more footwork this year. Last year, I feel that he kind of took a step back, obviously, given the whole injury thing. But I think that he's going to have to put it all in this year for sure, because the team is just going to need it overall, and they're going to require more of him.
Go ahead.
I wanted to actually say Dave's point. I disagree 100% with what Dave said. I think he needs to be less patient. I think he was too patient last year, because I think that's what teams want him to do. They want him to say, I'm going to throw it to the open guy. The open guy is Schultz, 6 yards down the field. He gets 8. Like, that's what they want. I think he's got to actually, that's why he doesn't have a lot of interceptions, because I don't think he takes as many chances as he probably should. If you want to get Amari Cooper the ball, or now you want to get CeeDee Lamb the ball, they were trying to make sure that they didn't get the ball. Now, everyone says, well, Aaron Rodgers gets his guy the ball, Stafford gets his guy the ball, because they got the arm to do it. They're going to do it. They're going to throw it in their tight window. That may not be as open as Dak wants it to be, so he'll throw it over here to Jarwin or Schultz or dump it off. These guys have 40, 50 catches, but it's hollow.
Are we sure that that's not a function more of the offensive coordinator, though? Because if the offensive coordinator is setting up the offense in a way... Yeah, I'm just saying, I want to point that out, because I think that there could be a situation where the offensive coordinator is setting it up such that the quarterback gets the ball to the open guy. And that means that the open guy, if he's 6 yards down the field, now the offensive coordinator is going to have to do a little bit more work and figure out how to scheme open the guy you want to be open, rather than just saying whatever they give us is what we'll take.
Exactly, and you're right. If that's Kellen, then that's on Kellen. But I just think that they kind of play into the defensive hands a little bit. They're like, all right, we'll give you Cedric Wilson, we'll give you these guys, and then we'll tackle them and we'll get off the field. Yeah. And there's a balance there. You don't want this renegade guy throwing and getting picks all the time. So that's the thing of it. This is his 7th year, and even Romo said it back. Romo said he figured things out in 2013. That's when he really figured things out. It was like his 6th or 7th year.
And literally right there toward the end
Towards
of
the
his
very end of his career,
Yeah.
you know? And so quarterbacks are always figuring things out. And maybe that's what Dak can do better at, this year too.
How much do you guys think his injury from 2020 was still an issue for him last year? Maybe not even just in how he played, but also in what he would try, or what the team would even allow him to try coming off of that injury.
He didn't seem like he ran as much. But they said that going in, that he said he was gonna be smarter about it. If maybe that's being smarter about it.
I think I went yesterday and I looked at the numbers. It was roughly about one less run per game on average. About. Now, of course, in 2020, you only had a sample size of 5.5 games, right?
Right.
So, or 4.5 games. It would be 4.5 games. So it was a very small sample size that season, but on average, it was about one less run per game.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of raw numbers, I don't think it made much of a difference. He ran 48 times last year. The big thing for me is I've said this more times than I can count. I just think you gotta show a willingness to be creative with the way that you use a quarterback with that skill set, particularly in the red zone. My man rushed for 18 touchdowns his first 3 years in the league. He's got 7 since. And to be, I mean, he got effed a couple times last year. Like he scored 2 or 3 touchdowns that they didn't give him, and now that's
Like 2 of them were in one game, right?
I'm not even saying like, it's a controversial. No, he got screwed. Yeah, like they took 2 touchdowns away from him. Patriots and Eagles, I think.
So different if he scores right there.
Yeah,
that game is completely different.
I agree.
Because you got Mac Jones the whole game now trying to come back. He's gonna keep throwing picks or throw some picks like that. That was a really big momentum, but they still overcame it.
But I think there's more that can be done there, and it's easy to say like read option, but bootlegs, just moving the pocket, allowing him to like extend the play toward the sideline, and which I was going to bring this up too. I believe his one rushing touchdown last year was against Atlanta, and he even said like he grown man the guy at the goal line, and he was like, I kind of had to remind people that I'm big, like I can do that. And then meanwhile, like everybody's, Jerry and everybody else is like wringing their hands about it. Like, don't do that anymore. It's like, no, we're playing football here. Playing football here at the end of the day. Like, yeah, I mean, you don't have to scheme up 10 carries a game for this guy, but that needs to be an element of what he does, and it always has been.
I think a lot of that too was maybe 35-7 or 35.
Yeah, they did have a big lead.
Yeah.
Like maybe be a little more judicious, and then again at the same time,
it's
like
ball. I mean, you can't take the training wheels off these guys all the time.
And not only like that's and I get like the older you get, the more you have to be conscientious of it. But like Dak Prescott carried the ball 1,000 times in the SEC with little to no mishap. I'm not going to reinvent the way I think about him as a player because of a freak injury.
Yeah, because it was a very fluke injury. Let's be honest. It wasn't like one of the things where he lowered his shoulder and took on a guy and broke his collarbone. It wasn't that. It was a situation where literally somebody just he fell awkward. Somebody fell the wrong way and it breaks his ankle. That's not something that you necessarily replicate on the next run, right?
There's an element of being smart about it, and then there's an element of like scared money don't make money. This is the NFL,
I'm trying to remember, and I can't remember like what it looked like in the first half of the season versus the second half when they started kind of losing their power. Was there a difference between him like carrying the ball or something, or like the way he specifically was playing?
Well, they stopped the run. The running game went down.
Well, and it's even crazy. Well, I'm sorry.
That was it. That was a big part, and then that affected everybody. But the running game numbers were really different.
And I don't expect my quarterback to be running the ball when the actual running back, but
they were a one-dimensional team and towards the end of the year.
And that
That's
affected that.
But I think part of that, if you go back and look at the numbers, really, the big change is that teams, looking at the Denver game and on, teams blitzed a lot less than they were doing earlier in the season. And if you even look at the second half of the season when teams did blitz, typically it was the division teams, and the Cowboys handled it really well, right? There was only one game where it was a game where they got blitzed, like it was one of the top 5 games I want to say that they got blitzed where they lost, and that was the Arizona game. Like really after Denver, teams just realized the same thing that Denver did. I think Denver blitzed like 8 to 10 times. Teams just started realizing, keep everybody back, blitz every once in a while. you're going to force this team to have to basically beat you with the. But we'll let you run. You got to beat us with the pass, and that's where the Cowboys just couldn't figure it out.
And to go back to, and I do think he needs to be more patient because. This is the long game, and you're seeing this all over the NFL. Mahomes struggled with it last year. Teams play Justin Herbert this way. Those two guys have cannons that can. I mean, Dak just doesn't have that arm strength. He just doesn't. I mean, very few people on earth do.
Yeah.
But you see these teams drop back and playing too high all the time and daring you to get impatient, and so you're trying to force things into windows against 6 and 7 man coverage. And the Cowboys' great equalizer is that when things are going well, they can just maul you with the run. And if you don't get out of that look and contribute more guys to the box, then you're screwed. And they're going to run for 190 yards, and there's nothing you can do about it. And they lost that ability in the second half of the season. Yep. The line fell apart. Guys got hurt. Zeke fell apart. It is easy to forget, and I'm not trying to let him off the hook completely. He makes a ton of money and hasn't lived up to the contract, but like Zeke was rolling through the first 6 weeks of the season.
When did he get hurt? When did that injury happen?
I think he hurt the PCL against Carolina, if I remember correctly.
Week 4 or 5. Yeah.
But I mean, they were averaging like 190 yards per game.
And he looked good. Like just watching him, the eye test, he looked really good.
By the way, that was, that's a very small sample size, and one of those games was against Tampa when they gave up on the run in the second quarter. Yeah. So that's how dominant they were. And I get it. Some of those defenses were bad. Philly's defensive front is not bad. Hargrave, Cox, Brandon Graham, those guys, like they mauled those guys.
Yeah. Jordan Davis.
Well, I mean, welcome to the party, pal. But yeah, so I mean, like I said, I think you run the risk of oversimplifying it, but I think for them to be at their best, they need to be able to run the ball more consistently and I think that it all builds off of that because it's easy to play too high when you're not worried about them rushing for more than 3.5 yards per carry.
Yeah, back to the point of what you were saying, Amber, asking about what happened differently in the second half. This was interesting to me. I was looking at some numbers from last year. Did you guys know in the first 6 games of the season, Cowboys receivers had 4 drops across 6 games, average of about less than a drop a game. In the final 10 games of the season, they had 24 drops, an average of about 2.4 drops per game. Makes me start wondering if, in a lot of ways, we gave Dak a hard time, we gave the running game a hard time, and if more attention should have been paid to the fact that your receivers were failing you in situations where they were just dropping the ball.
Are we sure that's not an average? That's not the way it is around the whole league?
I don't know. I'm just saying. There's a stark difference between when they were rolling in the first part and when they took the downturn.
There's
in the
also
second part.
Another difference in every football season from the start of the season to the end, and that's what the weather it looks like. And I just wonder if that is a normal thing.
Did they have any poor weather games last year?
Kansas City, New York, you're just playing in conditions that I know New York was a tough one. New York was tough to throw the ball around. I just think that might be a normal stat of like you don't see that happen a lot, and then as the year goes on, it's harder to catch. And who's also what's a drop? You know what I mean? We found that out when T.O. was here. It hit T.O.'s pinky behind him, and then that was a drop because people categorize that as a drop. I'm just saying I think that might be a normal thing of a little bit more drops later in the season than early. I don't know.
Just as a general thought, I think, for the hype that was placed on them, the receiver core did not live up to its billing even a little bit. Yeah. I'm sitting here saying like, it's kind of nitpicky to try to say Dak needs to improve in this, that, and the other way. And it's going to be harder for him. Like that, I think AG, you and I differ on quote unquote what it means when you say a quarterback needs help. I think all of them need help, and I hear what you're saying, but like again, I bring up Mahomes all the time for good reasons because for most of his career he's been surrounded by elite level talent, and I'm not even just talking about Kelsey and Tyreek Hill. Their offensive lines have been wonderful for most
until
of his.
Until they weren't, and we saw.
Well,
right?
The Super Bowl is a great example, but. But even, the year he won the MVP, he's got like Mitchell Schwartz at right tackle. They've had wonderful offensive lines for the vast majority of his career. Anyway, there's less talent here now than there was last year for Dak. I think that's inarguable.
And I think you have to this is just reading between the lines, but is Dak okay with that? Think about the Cowboys said, here are 5 phone numbers to call these wide receivers. They've never done that, or not that we've ever heard. We value your opinion, and you call these guys and talk to them, and let's see.
He said last week it's the first time anybody's ever asked him to do that.
Okay,
before the draft.
But they're valuing his opinion. They want to know his opinion.
Yeah.
And so it seems
if his opinion was, I gotta have 19 on this team. I'm not saying he's the reason that he kicked him off the team or anything like that. I'm just saying if they're valuing his opinion and all of a sudden they letting this guy go and it's a head scratcher and everyone around the league's like, why do they do this? They didn't get anything for it. Then makes me think that maybe Dak is at least on board with it or okay with it. Unless it's one of those things like, we're doing this, deal with it. Because you know how that goes with the Jones family. It's like, there are certain things that, what do you think? And there's other things of, this is what we're doing. Yeah. And that might have been it. But
I think you're 100% right, but I think everything you just said would apply the same way if you took out 19 and said 88 5 years ago. Like was Dak Prescott spurring the charge to get rid of Dez? No, but did Dak probably see which way that was going and was privy to that? Absolutely.
I also don't think Dak necessarily had the influence in the building at that point that he should have.
But I'm just saying, organizational change like that, typically doesn't just come out of nowhere. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
and it sounds great in the spring, and then in the fall when you've got to create separation, it's another story. That's all I'm saying.
So he may be in that huddle man, I should have spoken.
We're just gonna.
I've been here too many times. I've been here too many times in May listening to this is what we think he can do, and this is why we're excited about it. And then you get out there against James Bradbury and Dante Jackson. I'm thinking about specifically, I don't even know if Bradbury was there, but the 2018 opener against Carolina.
Yeah.
They only lost that game 16-8, but I just remember feeling hopeless. I was like, they're
never going to score.
They are not going to move this ball downfield. They can't do anything. Nobody's open. They got nothing. And Kawan Short is just eating Dak for lunch. It was a rude awakening. And 6 weeks later, Amari was on the team.
Yeah,
that's all I'm saying.
Can't you just see being at the AT&T Stadium for a game, probably a noon game, and there's second quarter they haven't scored, and then somebody's be like, Amari just scored a second touchdown.
Yes.
Oh yeah, it's going to happen at some point this year. All right, we're going to take our first break. When we come back, let's talk about CeeDee Lamb. We'll get into these wide receivers and CeeDee Lamb's role in that room and with his quarterback. We'll do that when we come right back. This is DallasCowboys.com radio.
At AT&T, everyone, new and existing customers, get our best deals on every smartphone. Why? Because you deserve it. For turning your living room into your office and your gym. For teaching Grandma how to video call and teaching her again.
It's the button on your left, Nana. Okay, your other left.
It's not complicated. Everyone deserves something new. So AT&T is giving everyone, new and existing customers, our best deals with every unlimited plan on every smartphone, even the latest ones.
AT&T may temporarily slow data speeds if the network is busy. Restrictions and exceptions may apply.
Want to use what the pros use? How about the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys? Jack Black. Right now you can get the Jack Black Starter, a curated collection of Cowboys locker room favorites for just $10 with free shipping. The starter includes 4 Jack Black skincare favorites plus a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Go to getjackblack.com/Cowboys and use the code word TEAMJB. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys. The Jack Black Starter, $10, free shipping.
The Cowboys way, where 16 Hall of Famers and 5 championships shows us what success looks like. Where turkey is always the second best part of Thanksgiving Day. Where we are all defined by one single thing, the star. Where we as fans know it's our job to keep the tradition going. Bank of America is proud to be the official bank of the Dallas Cowboys and to support the quest of living life the Cowboys way.
Copyright 2020, Bank of America Corporation.
Before there was a draft, you could size up a cowboy by 3 simple factors: the crease in his hat, the bend of his brim, and his unbending attitude. A man Stetson didn't just protect him from what life threw at him, it projected a rugged, unstoppable spirit. Stetson hats are still American-made with pride right here in Texas. They're still the unofficial crown of all self-respecting cowboys, and Stetson is proud to be on the field with America's team. Find a retailer nearest you at stetson.com/cowboys.
Back to the break.
If you can't see very well, you need to book an appointment at your local Essilor experts and find the perfect Essilor lens for you. See more, do more, Essilor. All right, we're back from the break here, and Derek is not.
Welcome back to the break.
I do have a question while we wait for Derek.
Whenever you ask a question, I know we're going to spend like 25 minutes arguing, so I can't wait.
No. Well, this one's tough because as we sit here and we discuss the offense and we discuss Dak Prescott and his playing level and all that, I keep thinking, I'm like, okay, where did it go wrong? Like, what happened last year? And I feel like at the beginning of the season, they were collectively good. Second half, they were collectively bad. So it's like I'm trying, and that goes into like coaching as well. Like Kellen Moore, what he was doing in the game. So like,
it was real simple.
What really happened? And two, like, is there anything that's like, because in years you could say, oh, you have Zeke running the ball. He was the one carrying the team. But, like, I really don't see anybody last year in that second half where that was the only good thing from the offense.
I think the minute that they put the red stripe on that helmet, it changed everything. And that was the Denver game.
I hate that.
I'm just kidding.
Was it Denver or was it the red stripe?
I know you're
kidding.
It was Denver. But I know there are a bunch of people that are like, the stripe. Don't ever bring the stripe back. Right. I thought the stripe looked great.
It did look great.
It was cool.
I just don't think people want to see it because they saw what happened when they had it.
Denver really, whether you want to say, there's a lot of colors involved there. Was it red because of the stripe? Was it orange because of what the stadium looked like and what those jerseys? Or was it blue, the blueprint that everyone talked about that really changed everything?
Are we writing articles here on the air? Is that like
was
that a column idea that you had? You just didn't.
Cowboys didn't have enough green.
I think you can point to damn near everything. Ag, it makes it frustrating to try to figure out. I mean, go down the list. Offensive line. Tyron Smith gets hurt. Another thing, Lyle Collins. Nobody can seem to agree whether he needs to be in or out of the starting lineup. One day we'll get to the bottom of that whole drama, like over some lemonades with somebody. But and then I think about this too. Like even go back to when they were winning. New England comes to mind. They could not stop committing holding penalties in that game, and it was like it almost made you excited because you were like, oh my god, like they keep getting out of these 1st and 20s, like they keep converting anyway. They're so damn good, and they stopped doing that in the second half. I think a big part of that is
drops.
Guys getting hurt. Well, and then think about, the second half of the season, like starting with Denver. What else happens? Amari gets COVID. CeeDee gets a concussion in Kansas City. I know there was something else. Yeah. Somebody else goes missing. Blake Jarwin winds up getting hurt to the point that it derails his career. Yeah. That's an understated injury. Zeke has a partially torn PCL. Dak, at the very least, if he wasn't hurt, he was in his head about avoiding injury. I'm just gonna say that for him. He just didn't seem like he was playing, with the same amount of moxie as usual. So
another thing that happened too is, when Gregory got hurt, hurt his calf, and I think for those few games, D-Law hadn't come back yet, so they played. They probably should have beaten the Raiders by 17 points. They didn't have a receiver. They didn't have a pass rush. Yeah. And Kansas City, too. The way that defense played, considering, they had chances there and didn't score a touchdown up there, but didn't have any receivers.
I'm reluctant to even bring up the Chiefs game because, most of these losses down the second half of the season were games that they lost because the offense couldn't do anything. Like the defense, 19 points from the Chiefs at Arrowhead all should be day. Yeah. I think they did force two takeaways in that game. They sacked Mahomes 2 or 3 times.
Defense played really well.
Really, the Raiders game is the only loss that you can squarely peg on the defense. I suppose Tampa Bay, too. I'm very forgiving about that Tampa Bay game, though. Opening night against that team,
they did everything that you would have expected them to be able to do in that
sometimes you just tip your cap and say somebody loses. Yeah. I'm not sitting here if they could only done this. It's like, no. Yeah. But
that's one of those you knew. Like when the field goal went through and it was like a minute 30, and you're like,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
I was like,
happen.
I was packing my bag to go down, and Derek, Derek loves to play that. He's like, "What do we think, Davey? What's gonna happen next?" And I was like, "They're gonna give up the field goal and lose." Derek, like, I hate to be a bummer, but
I just wanted you to play along.
it's Tom Brady.
I just thought maybe you'd give me something interesting, but no, it was the same thing that we all knew was going to happen. All right, let's talk about, and I don't know where you were going with before I was.
She's still trying to figure out what happened.
Sorry, I'm so sorry.
Well, now we're trying to figure out what's going to happen with the wide receiver group.
Yeah, well, I want to talk about CeeDee.
That's another interesting part.
Well, we heard this quote that came last week. Clarence Hill, the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, talked to Jerry, and Jerry basically told him that he thinks that CeeDee, or at least I'm going to say the paraphrase of what Clarence wrote, was that CeeDee will be an upgrade over Amari. And the quoted part was this was relative to his production in the huddle and off the field. Now, you guys are Jerry whisperers. You kind of know how Jerry talks. Tell me, what do you think he was getting at? Because he specified those three things. What do you think he could have been getting at? First, from a standpoint of production. Second, from the standpoint of in the huddle. And third, from the standpoint of off the field.
I don't think we can.
Go ahead, Dave.
I don't. Look, I think we've done all we can do to lay this out. Like I'm trying to lead a horse to water, right? Like there was dissatisfaction with Amari Cooper that had nothing to do with his like abilities as a football player. Like, haven't we made that pretty clear over the last 4 months? Like, in whether that's in terms of like the buy-in. Again, like I don't have to extrapolate anything. Jerry let you know on the radio how aggravated he was about not being vaccinated. Yeah. He called him out like a damn thunderbolt. Like that's one of those things where you're listening to it and you're like, whoa. Yeah. He said, I not me, or are we not me, whatever he said. It's like, damn, he just took a shot at his star receiver right here on the radio. And then you hear other things. We've talked about it on here, like pulling yourself out of the Jets game on the third play, or not being on the field on the crucial fourth down at the end of the de facto division title game in 2019. Like, that stuff, it's fun talk radio fodder. It makes an impression in the front office as well. And like those are things that I've heard directly from people. That's not me guessing. So yeah.
And I'm fine. I mean, and also we were factoring in off-season Jerry. I mean, he's always optimistic. He's going to be optimistic on this, and I'm fine. Maybe CeeDee Lamb as the number one receiver can be better than Amari Cooper as the number one. That's very possible. What I don't think is going to happen is who's going to be better than CeeDee as the number two.
The question has never been about Amari versus CeeDee. Yeah. It's always, cool, you got a pretty good number one. What's going on with the rest of this?
Pippen did a nice job of replacing Jordan that year in '94, but there was not another Pippen. That was the problem. And I'm just saying that he did the best he could to kind of be the guy.
He wasn't Jordan, but
no, he wasn't. But I'm just saying CeeDee could be better than Amari. But the problem is they had two of them. And now Jerry also threw that quote in there about Amari he should take half the field with him when he goes as a number one receiver.
Yeah, there's another shot across the bow. Like, I think that was when Amari was still on the team. Yeah, that was like after the playoff loss.
The playoff game, which there's some everything that we say about like Dak does this or Amari does this, or first half starts. It all kind of comes back to Kellen Moore. Like Kellen Moore's got to be better too. He's got to be. And, I mean, they all do. You just said it. I mean, a lot of the defensive, issues weren't really there as much. Some of it they were, but, I mean, the offense was the underlying problem here.
It does. It irks me the way that this gets framed into, like, a CeeDee versus Amari thing when it's really more about, okay, you got a pretty damn good number two. We'll see when he's available. And also, again, this isn't Madden where the prerequisite 8 months go by and you're 100%.
Like play, yeah.
So, I mean, he might even be ready to play. He might not be the same Michael Gallup right away. Guys say that all the time. Mm-hmm. So how good can he be and how quickly? Then you got a rookie, a third-round rookie, not CeeDee Lamb, a guy you took in the third round. Like, we all hope for the best for that, but it's no guarantee. It's always been about what the rest of the depth chart looks like. I got no worries about CeeDee Lamb. It's everybody else.
Yeah, I think that finding a solid group is pretty hard. Like, I'm still traumatized from the time of when they were playing, like, what did they call it, by committee or
A receiver.
A
Yeah.
receiver.
Like,
Yeah,
And they adjourned that committee in week 7 and traded for somebody else.
Yeah,
As we were coming back from visiting Washington, D.C. and the monuments and everything, yeah.
It was a big mess. But once they got to what they had last year, and you saw the way that Dak was just, it could be anybody, Cedric Wilson, even Noah Brown at times. It was just clicking. It was working until it wasn't. But that's the thing. Like right now, and I know it's just OTAs. First week was last week, but to see 2 of your guys hurt, not being able to practice, I mean, crap. I'm already, fast forward into the season. I'm like, okay, what the heck does this look like when it was already a concern overall? And then you get 2 guys that are injured. And again, these aren't major injuries or anything, but it's still something to keep an eye on. And every practice for new guys, especially rookies, and even new guys as veterans coming in here, I mean, all of this time is very, very valuable.
Exactly right. I mean, that's the thing. Like, yeah, it may not be major injuries, but this is the time where they need to build that chemistry, and especially with the receivers and quarterbacks. So yeah, I mean, that's why somebody's going to step into this, and it was Cedric Wilson last year, and it could be, Simi Fehoko. I mean, like we can always laugh and chuckle and like, he's not going to do it. He didn't even catch a pass last year. Same with Cedric Wilson.
Right, yeah.
He didn't do anything to make us think he's going to be a $7 million receiver going in free agency.
Okay, and I don't want to put words in your mouth. I know what you mean. And somebody will step up and somebody has to catch the ball. Like, somebody will take those receptions. Okay. But Cedric Wilson's road to being a $7 million player was very long. To give you an idea, like when you think about how long it takes to get to that point, missed his rookie year with a shoulder injury, came back in 2019 and was mainly like a return man who maybe got onto the field every now and then. 2020 really had one great game, which was Seattle. When was somebody hurt? I don't remember why he got onto the field so much, or maybe, but I think he finished with 400 yards that year, and like 150 of them came against Seattle. Mm-hmm. Year 4, after he's worked that hard and been around for that long, he is ready to still be the number 3. I mean, to give you don't
Phil
just
took an injury from
That's
Gallup.
a good point.
Gallup, it wasn't. If it was not for an injury by Gallup, then he's not. So you're right.
It sounds fun to say like, well, yeah, like this 6th round pick will step up and plug right in, and hopefully somebody can. But that is a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. Like, that's why guys like Cedric Wilson are my favorite players, because that dude worked his ass off to carve out, even at the end of the day, not a small role, but a specific role. You know what I mean? So
my point to
easier
that,
said than done.
Yeah, my point to that, and this was a mailbag question, maybe even this morning. They kind of run together. But like, which undrafted player do you see starting? And you're like, if you could see it, based off of right now, it would have been something they did in college. And if you could see it, then they would have been drafted. Yeah. I never thought Tony Romo was going to be the franchise quarterback.
He did.
He did.
He told us as much.
And it might have been because he struggled in our flag football playoff game, and I'm like, this guy's not going to make it.
For every guy that
Chris was there. Wow, we had that. We should have won that game.
For every guy that gets to the mountaintop and says like, I always knew, there's a dozen guys every year who carry themselves that way and are gone by October.
True.
So
true.
But yeah.
So I never saw the Cedric Wilson. I never thought that was going to happen. I never saw Terrence Steele taken over as a starting tackle. So it's hard to see any of those guys. So maybe it is a Fehoko, maybe it is a TJ Vasher, maybe it is Dontario Drummond, who's an undrafted guy, might be on our website right now.
Yeah. Frankly, I think all of what we will think of this wide receiver group when it comes down to it at the end of the year, in my opinion, will be about the offensive coordinator. If they continue the same way they've played, which is we're going to just run it out there, we're going to try to find the open guy, we're going to have our quarterback get the ball to the open guy, I think they're going to be unsuccessful. Mm-hmm. I think if the offensive coordinator schemes up opportunities and finds as many unique ways to utilize their best asset when you're talking about their receiving core, which is CeeDee Lamb, I think they can be successful because there are a lot of teams. You look at San Francisco and Debo, there are other good receivers on that team, but make no mistake about it, that whole thing started and ended with Deebo Samuel doing what he does. And I think there are several teams around the league like that. When you have that kind of talent and the difference between that guy and the next guy is as big as I think it is, especially while Michael Gallup is out, then I think you better find ways to get the ball in his hands and let him make plays.
I think you take San Francisco off the table because they don't have a player. Nobody has a player like Debo. And I think you take Green Bay off the table with Devontae Adams because nobody has I don't think people have quarterbacks like Rodgers. Even Mahomes is not like him as far as just getting it done with one guy. I look at Arizona. Did Hopkins get the ball a lot? Did they figure out because Kyler Murray and Dak are very
2 years
comparable.
ago he did. Yeah.
Okay. That's comparable to me. A guy, they were figuring out ways to get Michael Thomas the ball.
I was going to say, can you say the Saints are the same way when Michael Thomas was healthy?
Yeah.
They were very dominant to him, right?
So yeah, I think it's possible. I mean, I don't like that comparison necessarily with Rodgers. People say that all the time. It's like nobody's Rodgers, and I don't think anyone right now is really Debo. Yeah. But there are other options. I mean, other comparisons there. Jamar Chase is another one. They get him the ball.
But they got good receivers there too.
They
but
get him the ball, but
he's way better than everybody else, though, right?
It's a loaded skill group, though.
But he's much better than the rest.
I mean, they get him the ball, so I don't think we're really arguing. But it helps.
Higgins and
your number 2 is a top 40 pick. Your number 3 is one of the better slots in the league. And don't forget the top 5 or 6 running back that's in the backfield commanding that attention as well. So I think you need a little bit of everything, and that's what I was about to say is. That's all well and good. Kellen Moore can definitely improve. CeeDee Lamb needs to be a focal point. I'm going to be rooting like hell for Michael Gallup to crush this rehab because that is the quickest solve of all is if he's running routes in August and you're like, damn, he's way ahead of schedule. And we don't know the answer to that right now. And I'm not trying to put undue pressure on the guy, but, man, that would go a long way toward making me feel better about things.
All right, we're going to take our final break, come back. I did have one more question on CeeDee. I want to ask you guys, where do you think is his biggest area for improvement going into this year? And then we'll talk a little bit about Zeke in his final segment. We'll be back. This is DallasCowboys.com radio.
Hi, I'm Clint Tillison with...
And I'm Jay Novacek, and we're both with...
United Ag and Turf, the official tractor provider of the Dallas Cowboys.
So, if you need a tractor to bale some hay, a mower to cut some grass, or a gator to get some chores done...
Get a John Deere at United Ag and Turf.
And then, let's get to work.
Hey, Jay, that's my line.
Well, not today.
Get to work with a John Deere tractor package that's just right for you and your budget. Visit UnitedAgAndTurf.com.
The Cowboys way, where 16 Hall of Famers and 5 championships shows us what success looks like. Where turkey is always the second best part of Thanksgiving Day. Where we are all defined by one single thing, the star. Where we as fans know it's our job to keep the tradition going. Bank of America is proud to be the official bank of the Dallas Cowboys and to support the quest of living life the Cowboys way.
Copyright 2020, Bank of America Corporation.
At AT&T, everyone, new and existing customers, get our best deals on every smartphone. Why? Because you deserve it. For turning your living room into your office and your gym. For teaching Grandma how to video call. And teaching her again.
It's the button on your left, Nana. Okay, your other left.
It's not complicated. Everyone deserves something new. So AT&T is giving everyone, new and existing customers, our best deals with every unlimited plan on every smartphone, even the latest ones.
AT&T may temporarily slow data speeds if the network is busy. Restrictions and exceptions may apply.
New Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar. You deserve it.
I do deserve that.
You deserve decadent flavor without sugar. And a day at the beach without sand getting everywhere. And a relaxing bath that your children don't interrupt.
I deserve all that?
It's really just a visual metaphor for Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar. Everything you want, nothing you don't.
A visual metaphor on the radio. I do deserve that.
Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar. The zero you deserve is finally here.
Back to the break.
Next Tuesday night, June 7th at Riders Field in Frisco, the 9th annual Reliant Home Run Derby is back at 6:30 p.m. Come see your favorite Cowboys swing for the fences to raise money for the Salvation Army. Free admission to all. See you there.
Welcome back. It is the final segment of the break. This segment brought to you by blockchain.com. And we were talking about CeeDee Lamb. We're going to continue talking about CeeDee Lamb. My question for you guys is, where do you think is his greatest area for improvement? Where can he this year really, really take a step in getting better as a receiver over what he's been to this point in his career?
I think it's probably lazy to say, but everything.
Be the man. I think he's got to, be the dude. Like, That's what he hasn't had to do that before.
Coach, what do I need to improve on?
Be the dude.
Be the man. Just be the man.
Yep.
Okay.
I hope the coach got a better answer.
I just
start playing like Aloe Black. I'm the man. I'm the man. I'm the man. That's it. That's it. Just,
I'm the man.
Just be the man.
I just have snapshot memories of CeeDee's goofs, for lack of a better word. I mean, week one, Dak's pick in week one was on him. That's a drop.
Yeah.
I have a vivid memory. I think it was 4th down, right outside the red zone at the beginning of the Saints game. They schemed him open, and maybe some of it was on Dak, but he and Dak miscommunicated, and the ball. I mean, he might score if they had been on the same page about what was happening. Just stuff like that, where it's like, you know, your hands are not as consistent as they could be. Your route running is probably not as consistent as it could be, and it's not to say he's like a bad player. He made the Pro Bowl, but if you're going to be the number one receiver, you need to get better at all that stuff. And they, like what we were just saying in the second segment, you got to feature the guy too. Like, especially now, like if you've got CeeDee and Amari, fine, but this guy is clearly a step above the rest of your receiving options. You can't like go into a game like, well, we'll get him the ball when opportunity presents itself. Like, you need a little more of a game plan on how to make sure this guy is making an impact.
He's going to probably face a lot of the really good corners, and I think obviously quickness, feet is good, but probably the really good corners are the ones that know how to get their hands on you and stop you at the line. So just looking at CeeDee, I mean, no one's ever saying he should be playing tight end. Convert him to tight end. He's obviously light in the ass and he's lean. That's what he is. He needs to make sure he gets off the ball. He's going to face the best corners. They're going to get their hands on him. They're going to be physical. He's got to be physical back. So we're finding a lot of things here.
On that note, like, what did you guys think of that little? I don't even know if I call it an experiment, but they tried a few times last year to line him up in the backfield, give him the ball, doing the Debo-esque type things. I always thought it was a mismatch. Not mismatch. I thought it was putting him in a situation where it's a little out of place. Mm-hmm. You guys agree with that, or you think you want to see more of it?
I want to be clear. I don't want him carrying the ball to the degree that Debo did. No. But what you remember, and I know what you remember is when he did it against Washington and got his ass lit up.
Yes, I do.
But what you've probably forgotten is when he did it against San Francisco in 2020 and scored from 18 yards out. Like,
You're right. I didn't think about that.
He's got good vision. He's fast. Like, I'm down with it as long as you're judicious about when you do it. Yeah. And getting tackled is part of football. It's the same thing as Dak. Like, I'm fine with him doing it. I think he's got the potential to make big plays that way. Just, but there's no need for him to top out at more than like 15 to 20 carries a season.
Yeah.
But, there's a reason why the running backs aren't 6'2" and 6'3", and if they are, they look like Derrick Henry, which, good luck with that. But that's a lot of target to hit. Yeah. And that's kind of what happened on the play. He does kind of run high and all that. Yeah. Now, he had a run against the Chargers, I believe, around kind of close to the red zone goal line where it was like a draw, and he, just kind of – that was when that first half Kellen was just hitting them with everything. Mm-hmm. And he had a draw there, and it was about 15 yards, first down, and right behind Terrence Steele. It was just like, what is going on here? This is great, But so in spurts, but then again, now he's the number one guy. It's the same as punt return. Do we expect him to be the punt returner? I mean, he's got different duties now as the number one receiver, and that's what they need, And I just don't think he's special at running it and special as a punt return. So if you're not going to be special, then I think you stick to being special number one receiver, and we find someone else to do that stuff.
All right, let's talk about the running back position. I want to talk about Zeke Elliott.
It wasn't San Francisco. It was Philly that he did that against. Sorry.
Okay.
He had the onside kick recovery against
I can't
Philly.
remember either one of them, though.
I just remember the run. Like, I don't remember who they were playing. I just remember the run, and I was like, okay, it's kind of good. I like that. Give me some more of that. All right, let's talk about Zeke Elliott. At his best, assuming he's healthy, what do you think is the best case scenario for him this season and what the Cowboys should be expecting from him this season?
At his best?
At his best.
1,200 yards and 10 touchdowns.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
And what did he have last year? He had 1,000 yards, 8 touchdowns? Something like that?
I know it was 1,000 yards. I'm not sure.
It's still like 1,003. I mean, it was like.
He fell over the line. 1,002 and 10.
10, okay.
But again, I'll bet you 4 of those came in the first 4 weeks of the season.
Yeah.
Well, 12 and 12 then. That's best case thing. 12.
I mean, his average yards per attempt were 4.2. Not great.
Yeah.
Not worse, obviously, but you probably expect a little
going
more
down
from him.
every year,
Yeah,
isn't
you expect that a little bit more from him based on his history.
Well, I see a lot of people saying, how he's running out of juice and all that, but I still have faith in him. Like, I still think he can give you what you need, in order for you to have a successful, balanced offense where the running game is working and where the passing game is working. He's the guy that is just, the O-line was not helping him at all last year. And that's a big problem. They need to fix the O-line. And I truly believe that if the O-line is improved from what it was last year and can manage and handle their own game, Zeke will be able to get the job done, the job that you need to get done. I don't think his game is far from being completely over. And I know that, like, quote unquote, like, the life expectancy of a running back is pretty short, but I still think that he can give you a pretty good season this year.
Do you buy into the PFF stuff? Their grades and all that kind of stuff. I mean,
sometimes.
I mean, they had him as the number one blocking running back in the NFL last year.
I don't doubt that.
Yeah,
I mean, we've seen
not
him
just saying he's pretty good at it. I mean, he's the best at it. Which you have to factor that in when you're like, why is Tony Pollard not on the field? And I think it's a simple approach to just say, if you want to pass block, put Zeke in, and if you want to run to the outside, put Tony in. It doesn't work like that. Those plays change like that. So there's a reason why. There's a reason why, Derek. Is there a reason why Zeke's on the field all the time? Yeah, there is, because he's a pretty good blocker.
People want to write that off so bad. They're like, I don't care. Like, we need the more explosive player. And I want Tony Pollard to touch the ball more. I think it's insane that he doesn't. But I wish we could go back and chart. Maybe I should. That would be a time-consuming project. But like, how many throws has Dak gotten off because of what Zeke does in that department?
You ever heard of Chris
First episode of training camp, Dave.
Got it.
We're gonna turn it over to you, and you're gonna tell us.
He's great at, and I mean, the fun thing, like, we know exactly what Zeke's output looks like if everything's clicking the way it's supposed to. We've seen it. We've seen it plenty of times. Yeah, 1,200 yards and 10 touchdowns, but he's 27. He will be 27 by the time we get to Oxnard.
That's so funny that
he's carried.
That's old.
I mean, he's been playing since he was 20.
For a running back. I know, but it is. And he's
almost
taking on a lot of carries.
He'll hit 2,000 career touches this season if he stays healthy. It's a lot. It's a lot of mileage.
So,
a lot of hits.
You mentioning the blocking game and how he blocks and all that, like, I think that is a part of his game that people tend to forget. And I have so many plays like that I vividly can remember where he just goes in and he's not afraid to block whatsoever. He goes in and sometimes he just bounces back, but he gives it his all and it's enough. And it's like he really helps in that way, even though it doesn't show in stats.
Twice a game last season, it was like, oh, yeah, that was really cool, but make sure you go back and look at the fact that it only happened because Zeke laid out in front of that guy. He blocked. One of the most amazing plays he's ever made was when he took out two 49ers at once. I don't know if he did it on purpose, but he did it.
Yeah.
He got one guy with his upper body and like tripped the other guy. I don't remember what happened with the pass, but Dak would have been mauled if he hadn't done it.
Here's something that just off topic a little bit, but about in baseball, they do a pitch count, and then like everyone keeps up. Okay, this is his 83rd pitch. Well, he's thrown over to first 7 times. Yeah. He's opens up every inning with a couple of fastballs. So you could say he's pitched 83 times, but it's the same with the running backs. I mean, he's got this many touches. You're not counting the 7 collisions he had with their middle linebacker. So that goes through. Like you said, Amber, he is like. He's not, afraid of anything. Yeah. I mean, he has always played with that fearless, mentality. So the fact that this is his 7th year and we're still thinking he can be a, 1,000-yard, 1,200-yard runner. I mean, I think it's been pretty good. I mean, he's had a good career, but his contract calls for him to be a great player right now, and I don't know if he can be great, but 12-12 would be pretty great for a running back.
It would be, but it comes with a lot of concern. I mean, so you're counting on the durability of a guy entering his 7th season who's been a workhorse all 7 seasons. Even the year he got suspended, he had 250 carries. And how confident are we that the offensive line will be quote unquote fixed?
So what do you think is the bigger issue? Do you think it's that there's been somewhat of a decline maybe in certain skills for Zeke? Or do you think the bigger issue is the offensive line? If he gets holes, he can be up there with the very best running backs in the league.
I thought he looked as good as he had since his rookie year through the first 5 weeks of last season. And it's not to say better than he was as a rookie, but as good.
Yeah.
Like he looked more explosive. He looked more decisive.
I mean,
and I know. Sorry, Nick. I know you can't do this, but like if you calculate his first 6-week numbers for the whole season, you're talking about 1,300 to 1,500 yards. Like that's how he was playing. Yeah. So I put it more on the offensive line.
Me too, because also when you look at 2015, that was the year before he got there. That offensive line was pretty good. I mean, Zach Martin, Tyron Smith, Travis Frederick, they were really good offensive line. You're talking about Darren McFadden at the end of his career, Alfred Morris at the end of his career. Still, if the blocking is there, we saw those guys have some good games. I mean, 1,100 yards rushing for Darren McFadden at the very end of his career. So when that line is there, those guys can still block. I mean, I think that's the bigger issue is that they took a bigger drop than Zeke did.
That's how I see it too, where he's no longer the player that can, like how he was at first, where he could create holes. If there wasn't one, he could just bust through there and make it happen. Mm-hmm. He's no longer that type of player the way I see it. He's the type of player that does need the help from his teammates and the O-line. So that's the biggest difference in my eyes, at least, that he went from being the guy that could make it all happen all on its own and get even extra yards, having like 5 men on top of him, to being the guy that, okay, now I do need a little help. Like, help me out. We're a team here.
I was going to disagree with you a little bit, but then I thought of week 1 against the Bucs. Does rookie Zeke truck that guy at the goal line when Jarwin misses his block and it's just him and some journeyman corner or that you've never heard of, like Zeke trucks him, and he didn't. And I that's just one example, but you're right. He doesn't finish the runs like he did before, but you still need the holes. But you're right. He needs a little bit of help there. This is the theme of everything.
I mean,
help the guys.
Yeah, like basically their team has to be better. Is I guess what I'm hearing from all these 3 guys we're talking about. They need everybody around them to also be better.
They need some J-Ron curses. That's what they need. They need 3 of those. I didn't think he was going to be that good. They do. They need curse to be.
I think you're right. What's scary is like the track record of those guys not being J-Ron Curse was way longer than the track record of like, holy crap, the best player on our defense is a guy we signed for pennies. Like that just hasn't happened a whole lot.
Guys that have to do it are Tyler Biotish has to take that leap that Terrence Steele did. James Washington has to be the guy that he was. Maybe that's his second year in his career, and he's going to get opportunities. And then maybe somebody on defense. Just another guy like that. And maybe Leighton comes back and has a really good year, or maybe one of those 11 pass rushers.
A lot of maybes.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly,
the list of people that we need to show us more than what we've seen to this point is awfully alarming, in my opinion.
Honestly, I think it comes down to the offensive. Like you mentioned Biotish, but I think just as much like what we're talking about is what is Tyler Smith going to do? Can he be better than Connor Williams? If he can be, especially in the running game, if he can be better than Connor Williams in the running game, your running game should be back on track. Except you need Tyron Smith to stay healthy.
Oh,
that to me is the big question mark that I don't think right now there's an answer for, because I feel really comfortable saying I think Tyler Smith's going to be better in the running game than Connor Williams. I don't know what's going to happen at left tackle, because I would bet money that he's not going to play 17 games. And if that's going to be the case, who's the guy? Who's the guy that's going to be out there at left tackle? Who's going to be protecting? Who's going to be protecting your quarterback? Who's going to be the guy that's going to be able to make things work? Like that. That's the part to me that I just don't know that there's a great answer for. And that's where I think most of their success offensively is going to come down to those two spots and what happens at those two spots.
Ty and Seki.
Go get him.
Call him in August and say, "Hey, we need you after all." I don't know.
How bad is that?
I'm kidding. I'm kidding, but it's the best jokes are born out of some kernel of truth.
You always say hope.
Honestly, I'm betting on Willetsko. I'm just hoping and praying that guy can play some.
Okay.
I'm hoping. That's all it is. Hope.
He has
That's
the
all you can do is
size,
hope.
but then you see him. I mean, I don't know if you guys talked about it last week, but it's like he's literally one of the biggest guys on there.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. But in big guys, sometimes they just look kind of like sloppy and like.
Yeah.
So at practice last week, that's one of the things that I noticed is he's just a little wobbly.
I don't know who was on the schedule.
Top heavy, kind of like.
I don't know who was on the schedule for North Dakota.
Yeah.
But there's no Tank Lawrence is probably on the other side of the line, and but he's gonna face some of that, lot of that.
Did you see what the Buccaneers did yesterday?
Yeah, I did, and that was I thought of you immediately, Dave, because you always those are the kinds of moves you're like, it's a
share.
Akeem Hicks
goes
one
to
of the better big body D tackles.
He doesn't stay healthy all the time, but when he's healthy, him and Vita Vea, like that. Good luck with that. I don't know how you're going to handle those two in the middle of that defense.
Well, you don't mess with them. You run to the outside 55 times like they did. And,
Week 1 when the Cowboys play them, when you would suspect both of them are going to be healthy, that's going to be tough.
I mean, every player has got a little. They got some ego to them. We haven't seen a lot out of Zach Martin, other than one time this last year he was like, I'm a right guard. That's what I am.
Yeah.
And
I have no desire to
I just wonder if when in the game plan is we're not even going to mess with these guys in the middle. If he's just like, dude, let me block that guy. Okay. I mean, I know Ndamukong Suh, he stomped his way around for 10 or 12 years, but I can block him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean. I know he did it once. But
I was going to say that's okay. Good.
He's been a really good player.
Really good player. Yeah.
He wrecked that playoff game next to Aaron Donald. He was the one that was given problems. But I just think that I've said it before. I think they would have had a different game plan if Zach was in there. I don't think they go away from the middle.
Speaking of what he did in that playoff game, would that be the kind of move? Like, would you have the same kind of reaction that you had about Hicks? Would you have that same kind of reaction if the Cowboys were to go out and get Ndamukong Suh? He's still sitting. I think he's still sitting out there as a free agent, isn't he?
Yeah,
I don't think he signed.
I would be very excited if the Cowboys signed a great player at an affordable price. What's not to love about that? Yes,
I'm wondering. You made me thinking now, but I thought I saw that he was still a free agent.
Yeah, he's still available. Which, and Akeem Hicks just took his spot in the Bucs lineup.
Yeah.
So, how about? I mean, we've heard whispers about. Heard whispers about the name Anthony Barr. There are still things they could do that would make me happy. Yes, if Akeem Hicks was on this team, I'd be like, that was a pretty good call.
No, absolutely. Yeah,
good
absolutely
call.
about him. Yeah.
You still, it's June 1st, by the way, so that Lyle money just hit the bank account, right?
We rich.
Yeah.
Go do something with it, somebody.
Do it.
It's not too late. You got time to upgrade this roster before the games start.
All right. Gotta worry about the future, not this season.
There's only so much pie.
Yeah,
I've been told that before.
I'm
thinking ahead.
Dak is supposed to make. Dak is counting $40 million a year, and he has not counted close to $40 million a year yet. So at some point,
it's coming.
It's coming more than that. It has to even out.
What you're saying is true, but that doesn't mean Ndamukong Suh wouldn't want to play a year here for $6 million, or I don't know how much it would cost to get him, but there's ways they could improve this team if they really wanted to. That's all I'm saying.
Let's go. Let's do it then.
Appreciate you guys joining us. We'll be back next week, or these guys will be back next week. I will not be here, but you three will be
Starting
back.
Starting that vacay early?
No, I got to go out and talk to the NFL.
Oh, right. Okay.
Our NFL meetings. So,
NFL?
Yeah. Got to go knock on the door. I'm just going to walk right up. Let's have a seat and have some talks. So I'll be gone. You guys will be here. We'll talk about the OTAs. And then the final week of our shows will happen the week following that when mini camps are happening. We'll have lots of content that week. There will be interviews with players, coaches, all that kind of stuff. So make sure you check us out the next couple weeks. For Nick Eatman, Dave Hellman, Amber Garcia, I'm Derek Eagleton. This has been The Break, live on DallasCowboys.com radio.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!